Well, congratulations, Gerald. You've won another fridge. How many fridges is that now? 6. That's 6 fridges. Well, that is an awful lot of fridges, isn't it? Blimey. What on earth are you going to do with 6 fridges? Open a restaurant? Well, yeah, 6 does seem rather a lot. I mean, especially as I've already got a perfectly good fridge at home. I mean, I'm not trying to be fridge ungrateful or anything. I mean, I understand that there are some people in the world that even half a fridge would be a luxury. I mean, it's just 6 does seem rather excessive. I guess I was assuming I could win something more than just fridges on this show. Nope, fridges is all there is. And how many questions have I still got to go? 28. And I could potentially win a fridge for each right question? That's right, yes. That's why the game show is called Everyone Wins a Fridge. I mean, I just think we underestimated the intelligence of our contestants. I mean, we should have put in some sort of fridge prize safeguard, or, I don't know, maybe ask more challenging questions. But we also wanted to make sure that, like the name of the show says, everyone wins a fridge. Oh, it's a constant dilemma. Well, you must go through a lot of fridges. I mean, you should maybe start with a toaster or something and maybe work your way up to a fridge. Well, everyone wins a toaster. It doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? Well, I suppose you're right. I mean, you're the expert after all. Hardly. Before this, I used to stitch raccoon ears into necklaces and sell them for drug money. Well, that's a little honest. Doesn't matter. Nobody listens to this show. Right. Here's question 7. What is the name of the show with this theme tune?
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, John Cross.
Some kind of...
sit by where the rain is.
What?
Well, you know, by a rainy window.
I don't want to sit by a bunch of people. I want to sit here where there's literally nobody.
Okay, all right.
Where we're in a two-booth.
Just saying it's a rainy window when you're...
I understand. But what do we care more about?
Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you so much. What do we care more about? You looking outside a rainy window or the sound of the podcast?
Oh, okay. See, this is why you run the podcast.
Right, and you're just a lowly
to
co-host.
occasionally let me be on it, because
Occasionally,
geographically...
it's on every week.
I know, but I think because geographically I'm the closest one. If other better podcasters live nearby...
That would have been like a really bad single in the 80s.
What's that?
Geographically, I'm the only one. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
Something to drink?
I'm good.
Can I get a cup of English breakfast tea?
English tea? Yes.
With milk. Thank you very much.
Do you know what I mean, though? Like,
I know exactly.
Like normally, it's like
hence the knowing guffaw.
Yeah.
After you said it, I was very I was impressed. I
Geographically,
didn't just like it. I didn't
you're
just
the
laugh.
only one.
I was also
Yeah,
impressed.
all right.
It was all, no, I'm serious. It was all rolled up into it, mate.
It was all rolled up into
Oh, this
it.
is why I had the Al Pacino sandwich or something.
Al
didn't I?
Pacino.
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino.
I never noticed.
Have the
Al Pacino.
Have the Al Pacino.
Oh, the Al Pacino.
Aye, have the Al Pacino, please.
Lemon or milk?
Milk, please, thank you.
How would you like the Al Pacino?
I'd like the Al Pacino.
I'll have it toasted.
Al dente.
I'll have it toasted. Al dente. Al dente. I'll have the Al Pacino. Al dente.
I'll have the Pacino al dente.
Have you met my wife? Al dente.
Al dente. Should it be husband? Al dente.
Listen, I don't judge people's way of life in 2019.
Right, okay, I get what you're saying. So you're saying your wife is called Al?
Al dente.
Al dente.
Al
Al
dente.
dente.
Have you met the missus?
Have you missed it?
Al
Al dente.
Dude, that's just picking up
Sorry.
and slapping your menu a bit.
Sorry, I'm doing that. I do flap the
Have
menu.
have the Al Pacino.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, lovely. Thank you very much.
Al dente. Oh, great. Now I have you
What do you mean? I'm just taking a tea bag
unsheathing your
God, it's
tea
like
bag.
going to a diner with the sound police. with the polling police.
I quite like...
Don't rustle.
I quite like
Sit up straight, don't rustle.
the Foley Police. It's like a police cover band, but it's the police cover band run by a guy called Al Foley.
Al Foley.
It's the Al Foley police cover band.
Grab the Al Pacino.
Giant steps are what you take, walking on the moon.
Al Pacino.
Al dente.
Walking al dente. Cooking, it'd be cooking, wouldn't it?
Cooking al dente.
Right, what am I going to eat then?
What do I want?
What do I want?
What does he want? What does he want? It's like that's like a. Is that a game show from 1978 or is it a
Might have been a
sitcom?
dream you had, mate.
A sitcom from 1983.
Probably both.
What does he want? What does he want?
What does he want?
It's all about you.
Every episode ends with a woman going, what does he want? What does he want? Starring, who's that bloke who was in that one about the painter?
What?
It was like a sitcom. And it was
Starring
about,
that bloke about the guy who's a painter.
there was a sitcom. This is the England we grew up in. There was in England where a popular
talking about
primetime sitcom.
Time we wait more.
Yeah, yeah, no, we need
more
more
time.
time.
Sorry, man. Sorry. Wait.
They're very impatient for 20 minutes.
Well, it's because he's got nothing else going on.
that's
What
true,
was? I thought you were talking about American sitcoms. I was racking my brain for
England,
American.
different stripes. I think it's called Different Stripes.
Oh, was it?
And he was like a cheeky chappy painter.
Oh, that's a clever pun. That's a very clever
I think that's
pun.
it. He was like a cheeky chappy painter.
Right.
And it was like the adventures of a painter. Like, how does that... And presumably he got into like scrapes with married birds. You think, what year is it? And
So
it
he
was
was-
like 1987.
It was like Lovejoy the sitcom.
Yeah, only he's like... No, I mean a painter and decorator.
No, I know.
There was probably whole scenes where he's just painting a wall blue.
I don't think that happened. I don't think at any point in a sitcom did
I
they
think
go
it happened.
on. They're in the writers' room. All of them sat around smoking fags, being like, "Oh, I don't know what to do this week. How about he paints an
It was
entire
one writer.
wall
There was no
blue?"
room. It might have been a cupboard that he lived in, where they'd open up every now and then and throw in a stale cheese sandwich, just so we didn't expire.
Well, I'm gonna have the Sunset Boulevard omelette.
I was thinking about this. You know, it's low cholesterol, right?
That's fine. Do you see what I just consumed at the?
Yes, good point.
I love that. You're like, you just consumed your body weight in snack foods, and then you're like concerned that the omelette I want to order might be low
I'm
cholesterol.
making a mushroom.
The Hall of Fame platter, the Al Pacino, Robert De
Avocado,
Niro.
spinach, and Swiss.
I love how they run out of name. Like it's the Al Pacino, the Howard Stern, and the Robert De Niro, and then it's just chicken pesto panini. You couldn't have named that, I don't know, the Joe Pesci panini or something.
Yeah, the Pesci panini.
The Pesci panini.
Dude, where were you when they were naming these
The
sandwiches?
Texas chicken, that could have been, I don't know, the Terrence Stamp chicken. Not that he's from
Terrence
Texas.
Stamp. There's literally so many people from Texas, and you went with Terrence Stamp.
Is Sam Elliott from Texas?
Probably.
Or the McConaughey? The McConaughey.
McConaughey's
It
got
could have
to
been
be
the
Texas.
McConaughey. But they literally, what's also, so you have the Al Pacino, the Howard Stern, the Robert De Niro, right? So they start with three names. Then they give up immediately and go to chicken pesto panini. Then we go down, and the last thing is the Hollywood tuna. I mean, that's just, could have been the Terrence Stamp tuna. The Hollywood tuna.
Yeah, he lives on an island, right?
Who does?
Terrence Stamp.
Does he?
Well, England. Britain's a big island, isn't it? It's got fish around it.
Take your first, yes.
I am ready, yes. I will have the chef's omelette.
Yeah, white toast or whole wheat toast?
Whole wheat, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I
very
get
much.
the Sunset Boulevard on that? But could I get that with Swiss cheese instead of cheddar? The Sunset Boulevard? So turkey, avocado, and Swiss?
Salad boulevard omelet, all kind of toast, white, whole wheat,
White is fine.
and then all kind of cheese.
Swiss instead of cheddar.
Salad boulevard and standard cheddar and sweet cheese.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you. And a white toast, thank you.
White toast. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I've always got to complicate matters.
You do.
Although what's interesting is, judging by that discourse we just had I said the Sunset Boulevard omelette, it wouldn't have ended there anyway. Even if I wasn't changing the cheese,
No.
he was already confused.
I don't know what they called them. I told them. In fact, they got as far as Robert De Niro before I said, if you don't stop naming the sandwiches things I'm not going to remember, I'm going to get cross. He's like, all right. We'll stop at the Robert De Niro. Can we have a Hollywood tuna? You can have one
Hollywood tuna.
One sandwich can be named after Hollywood, but that's always
it.
just a Hollywood. Or all of them.
Yeah.
Right? Hollywood tuna, Hollywood cheese,
No.
Hollywood egg. But that's it. Right?
No, they've gone smatter
Don't
a
call it
few.
fucking Hollywood. You better put tuna in there so I know what it is.
But I like that. The Sunset Boulevard omelette. What's in that again? Well, then don't call it that. Like, if it's not, you know what I mean?
I do.
It's one of those things.
It is.
It's one of. Did it get really hot in here, or is it me?
It is you, because it got so cold I put the thing on.
Yeah, that's insane. Maybe I'm having a heart attack and I'm not aware.
Well, given the amount of crap you ate in that cinema, it would not surprise
Well, I have to put it
It's
into
definitely
my body.
coming. It's on its way. It's bought the ticket, and it is travelling very slowly from the future
I think
to you.
if I have a heart attack during an episode of the After Movie Diner, that's the way to go.
Is that like
'Cause then
if a tree
also-
falls in a forest? It's like if you have a heart attack on a podcast, will anyone notice it?
Well, I think people
Does
would
it make a
notice.
sound?
Because you probably wouldn't know how to upload it. So it's not like anyone would listen.
So in other words, the only way people would know that you died is because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Luddite.
No, people wouldn't know that I died. It's because you're a Luddite.
No, because they'd suspect. They go, hang on a minute, we haven't had a social media post about the top 8 films starring fish, you know what I mean, in March or whatever. And they go, where's he gone? Where is he?
Is that what I do?
No,
Top 8 social media posts about fish. Is that what I do?
No, it's not what you do. That is a gross slur
Yeah.
on your.
I do believe that what you are referring is a post where I was trying, in my most
And what did I
positive
do?
way,
I took the low road. That's
You
what
took
I
the
did.
low
I
road.
took the fucking low road.
in my most positive way, to herald some independent, non-blockbuster fun
You are an
B-movies.
independent film herald. You should put that on your business card.
No, I'm not putting that on my business
you
card.
should.
I'm
I
going to put
like
the
it.
thing
John
you
Cross,
said earlier.
independent film
What was the underpaid jazz helmet? What was that? I am a purveyor of cash-strapped jazz helmets. What was that?
I can't remember. I think it was cash-strapped jazz helmets, but I can't remember. But it was very you.
Yeah.
It was very, like, you sketchy.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right, I did get warmer.
But no, I have been trying of late, and I am going to tie this into this week's movie, so don't worry, this isn't another tangent.
Oh, here we go. No, I meant that in a nice way. I like the way you weave things together. It's,
Right. This is a positivity. I'm in a wave right now, a positivity. Sometimes the wave comes crashing to the floor.
And sometimes it's just a fart.
And it's decimated. And sometimes you go, oh, this is going to be a big wave, and then it just is a piddle. Yeah. And you realise that you've just
sitting in your own farts.
displaced a turtle or something.
Displaced a turtle.
Well, there's turtles in the ocean, right? And then they, like, if a little wave just maybe displaces I don't know.
I think the metaphor's got away from you a bit.
All right, okay.
Step back from whatever the hell it was supposed to be.
Okay. No, I'm on a bit of a wave lately because, so it started off earlier in the year, realising that in general, 2019, not been bad, not shabby. Like, we rarely...
Not too shabby at all.
Rarely have we come out of a movie, and we've seen a lot of modern new release movies this year.
It does make me think of the Third Man, the age of the Borgias, and you know what I mean, like in an age of chaos and suffering in which we currently live.
Yeah.
That great art.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's great art. What I would say is we've had some movies...
Great art, no.
No. Well, I mean, Hitler,
Not great art, no.
The Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot
Great
was
art.
great art.
Great art.
Come to Daddy was great art.
Great art.
But anyway, so I've been making all these lists on Letterboxd, as I am wont to do. Letterboxd.com/aftermoviediner. Find me, follow me, like me.
Social.
Bow, bow.
Yeah, I'm not sure that gives it quite the modern tinge that you're shooting for.
Canine. So,
Nuns on the Run.
oh yeah, they use that fucking Danny Elfman song and everything.
I don't think it's Danny Elfman.
It is. It's Ongo Bongo, I think.
No, it's called The Race by Yellow.
No, I don't.
Oh
think
no, they're
that's what
different
it is.
songs. The Race by Yellow is Nuns on the Run. That's it.
Okay. Anyway, you're right. The Bow Bow Chicka Chicka is used in lots of different films. I always think of it as canine. There's one more film that's hugely popular that everyone else thinks of it of, but I don't know what that is. I always think of it as canine. Anyway.
Yeah, they must do, right? Because like, who remembers Canine except you, me, and John, and presumably Jim Belushi and the dog. The dog's still king. The dog's dead, right?
Yeah, it's 30 years old.
You've heard it here first on the After Movie Diner that Jerry Lee Lewis of Canine is dead.
It was just Jerry Lee. It was just Jerry Lee. Don't press me on canine knowledge.
Well, no, but not the name of the dog in the movie. The name of the actual dog.
I don't know the name of the actual.
I think the name of the actual dog was Jerry Lee Lewis.
No, it wasn't.
I think
the actual name of the dog was like.
And I'll fight anyone who disagrees with me. I'll lose, but I might get in a cheap shot before I go down.
News tonight: Jim Wallace. The body of Jim Wallace was found bludgeoned to death after someone pointed out that the dog's real name in Canine was Max. Jim was having none of it.
It probably was.
And fought to the death.
I did.
Yeah. No. So
I'm back now. From beyond the grave to listen to you talk about stuff.
The After Movie Diner with John Cross will return right after this.
When award-nominated screenwriter Chip Thompson, that's me, hi, was 14, he was mildly obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, comic books, and a whole manner of geeky pop culture. So he decided to write his own series, centering around what it would be like if he and his best friend and co-host MC,
that would be me,
were supernatural crime-fighting ninjas in Tokyo. It was as terrible as it sounds, full of plagiarism, clumsy references, and outright stealing of ideas, mixed with its own unique blend of B-movie horror and superhero plots and ideas. Now, 17 years later, Chip and MC read through each episode of this series, much to Chip's chagrin, brought to life with their unique acting skills. Whether you're a Buffy fan or enjoy the works of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, My Dad Wrote a Porno, The Evil Dead, or you just like to hear a grown man wince at his teenage ramblings, we think you'll enjoy the How I Ripped Off Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast. Available on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher Radio. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com How I Ripped Off Podcast, or on Twitter at How I Ripped Off.
Yes, if you want to hear an ad read out in the middle of the After Movie Diner for your project, your website, your podcast, your album, whatever it is that you do, if you want to hear an ad read out in my bad English tones in the middle of this show, then please go over to patreon.com/After Movie Diner, and for the $3 or more per podcast show package, I will read out or play a promo for your site, your store, your podcast, your web series, or anything that you want on the show at least twice a month for 3 whole months. My goodness, what a deal. It's basically free advertising, except that you have to pay me. You also get an After Movie Diner mug worth $17, a thank you and a mention once on the show. So why don't you go ahead and do that? Our announcer, Spike, will tell us how.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
So I've been making lists on Letterboxd. Check it out. And then started to look at this, and I was like, I've had a rash, not a wave, but a rash of...
You all right, mate? Do you need cream?
The only salve I need.
Oh, here we go.
Wallace,
here it is. Brace yourselves, everyone.
More movie bliss.
I get where you were going. I just felt like it was...
What if it was movie bliss tease? Because that's a salve for your lips.
That's pretty good. No, I like that.
Bliss tease.
Yeah. Go with that.
If you please.
Go with that.
But no, had been getting a lot of screeners through lately. And in the past, I'd watched a few screeners and been like, oh, bollocks, I have to really review this and interview the fucking director of this pile of shite. However, lately, the last, 8 or 9, have, been real treats. Coupled with some of the more indie ones that we've seen in the cinema, and a couple of ones that I've watched at home on Netflix, which I also really enjoyed, stuff like Paddleton and things.
Paddleton was really good. I watched that on your recommendation. You were right, it was great.
by the way, go to aftermoviediner.com and see all the interview and review stuff we're doing. We've had Gwen and the British director William MacDonald. We have had Tone Deaf, starring Robert Patrick, and the director of that, Richard Bates Jr. Chefs is there.
Thank you very much. Lovely.
Who goes Halloween?
That would be me.
There you are.
Thank you so much. Look at that.
Thank you very much. Lovely.
Thank you. Perfect. We have coming up. We have the two directors of Freaks, which is a really good indie sci-fi horror movie coming up with Emile Hirsch and Bruce Dern. What?
Why am I being served strawberry jam with
For your toast.
with my omelette?
But for your toast, the toast isn't with your omelette. The toast is that. Never mind.
Really? Do people have strawberry jam on
You
their toast?
always get jam or jelly with toast when you have a breakfast in a diner.
Really?
Yes,
This isn't breakfast.
it's considered a breakfast item.
That's just all right. That's fine. I'm just saying. I think it's weird. Okay, whatever. Crack on. I'm
How
sorry.
many
I ruined
times
your
have you
flow.
seen me have an omelette and then afterwards have the toast and jam as a dessert? Like
I think I've ever seen that.
I do that all the time.
Do you? Do I
Yes.
just not notice the things that you do?
Yeah, you don't
I
notice
just stop
anything.
looking at you.
Yeah, you've stopped looking, listening, or caring that you're interrupting me in the middle of my delightful flow.
It was delightful, and I'm sorry.
But yes, no, we've got lots of interviews and reviews coming up on the After Movie Diner. We've got, as I said before, we had Gwen and an interview with the director, William MacDonald. Really good British folk horror. His first feature, and a jolly good one at that. This week we had Tone Deaf and the director, Richard Bates Jr. We've got the two directors of Freaks coming up and a review of Freaks on the show.
What's it called?
Freaks, with Emile Hirsch and Bruce Dern.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. Nice little sci-fi indie horror thing. We also have Satanic Panic, which is, I wanted to bring it up because it's very similar to this movie and we can kind of move into that. And I just the other day interviewed the star of that movie, Hayley Griffiths, so that'll be on the podcast. And I also did a review for Madness in the Method, which is Jason Mewes' directorial debut. Him who were Jay to Kevin Smith's Silent Bob has all grown up, as they say, and made a movie of his very own.
That's cool.
So yeah, lots of really cool indie stuff coming out. And so I decided to put together a list on Letterboxd of my top indie B-movie non-blockbuster films of 2019. I knew what I meant, but I was trying to define it in the title of the list. Bit clunky, but I went ahead anyway.
Yeah. That's fine. You go for it, mate.
And came up with 14 films that have surprised me and that I have enjoyed, or that are legitimate masterpieces, such as Hitler, Bigfoot, and Come to Daddy. And what was nice about it, as I was saying to Jim before we started the movie, you know, I was watching Satanic Panic, which, very similar to this movie, it's sort of a little bit of a commentary about blue-collar woman versus the rich 1%, who happen to have a dark, supernatural secret, let's just say. And I was reviewing it, and I was looking at it, and it's chock full of practical special effects and gore and comedy and action and various other stuff. And I was looking at it, and I was like, I started to be a little cynical, as is my wont, shock horror. But then I suddenly stopped and I thought back, because I was like, oh, this movie really wants to be society and it's not society. And then I started to think back to society and I'm like, yeah, but apart from the really surprising ending and the Screaming Mad George special effects, how actually good is society, right? It's got Billy Warlock in the leading role, which nobody gives a shit about, really. And it's not like the script is some work of satirical genius. It is, ooh, the dark underbelly of the rich and how the rich keep getting richer, right? And it's slight nod towards the 80s excesses. Well, why doesn't 2019 deserve similar? It deserves a similar film. So I suddenly through something you said about 47 meters
Very
down,
wise.
Uncaged, about if they were talking 70s lingo, we wouldn't have hated it so much.
We didn't hate it.
We liked the movie, but we hated
the way the kids talk.
the lingo.
Yeah.
I suddenly thought, well, if I was, 15 and watching Satanic Panic for the first time, or indeed tonight's movie, Ready or Not, what would I think about it? And I would would it be the society of my generation kind of thing? And I thought, yeah, actually it would. In fact, if anything, it's probably got a slightly stronger script and a much stronger leading actor in. So I suddenly I had a bit of an epiphany this week. So not only did I realize 2019 has been balls so far, I've been really enjoying it, but also I'm seeing lots of smaller budgeted movies that are giving it the beans in the best way, and I'm watching them uncynically, which makes me feel really good.
Congratulations.
That's where I'm at.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah.
So, how does Ready or Not fit into that?
Well, I think the hardest thing about Ready or Not is its close proximity, sadly, because I want both movies to do really well. But it's sad proximity to Satanic Panic. Now, Ready or Not is going to do much better than Satanic Panic because it's a much bigger movie in terms of the marketing and in terms of the distribution. We have seen trailers for this for like the last month, I think. And although it's not Margot Robbie, which I initially thought it's Samara Weaving, one quick Google of Samara Weaving and the internet itself is very confused as well, not just me. Although I should have known who Samara Weaving was because she was in an episode in the first series of Ash vs. Evil Dead. As she is a New Zealand, she's either Australian or New Zealand, but either way, she's an Antipodean, and she was down there when they were filming, and that's how she ended up in the
Well,
TV.
all I know about her is, having been very, not to say extremely unconvinced by her in the first 10 minutes, she was fucking spectacular.
Yeah.
She was really good.
So the only downside for me, having seen Satanic
I can see
Panic,
that. Sometimes it's tough to see too.
is I kind of wanted it to be... I wanted both movies to be slightly different, or different enough that they could both have their place. They are different enough in execution, and even a little bit in storyline. But if you watch them basically back to back, which kind of... Not that Satanic Panic was the last movie I watched, but it's certainly fresh in my mind because I was just interviewing the lead actress yesterday. It was a little tricky for me to kind of completely separate the two. But saying that, Ready or Not is tons of fucking fun. Samara Weaving gives it the beans.
Everybody's great.
Everybody's
Adam Brody's great.
Adam Brody's really good.
He's really good.
He's really good.
And I love that, he ends up where he ends up. I mean, it's not, but in terms of the narrative of the two brothers, what's interesting is when you, I can't remember exactly when in the movie I realised that it was the useless, cowardly, drunken brother who locked the brother in the closet.
Oh, you didn't realise that?
I didn't realise that for like a good half hour. And so
at the beginning of the movie, when they say, hello, Daniel, or whatever they say, they call him Daniel.
Right.
My mind immediately went to Daniel. Remember who Daniel is, because that's going to come back. And then they introduce you to Adam Brody, and they're like, Daniel. And I'm like, okay, I get it. So I got it from the beginning, but...
Well, what's interesting to me is having not realised that...
Having not paid attention...
No, because it was right at the beginning of the movie, just like two kids. And you get names right at the beginning. But you would think...
You get names right at the beginning of the movie, you don't bother to remember the name.
One brother is like strong, brave and handsome and, isn't going to stand for these family shenanigans. And one brother is a useless drunk who she describes as keeps hitting on me. So it's fun to the first time you see these two brothers, one of them is like being looked after by the other, and it's the alcoholic one who it can be argued, I guess, in the context of the whole film, is the only brother who has ever really tried to deal with what the family is and where they come from.
Right.
The other one just chooses to run from it and so is not prepared.
Right.
You know, the thing that Andy McDowell says to him, that he is not prepared for how much he belongs to that family.
Right.
He thinks by running away from it and meeting some woman and falling in love, that's going to stop him.
Right.
You know, that he knows, all he's realised is he knows it's wrong and then he's run away from it.
Right.
As opposed to the alcoholic brother who's realised it's wrong and knows that he can't run away from it.
Yeah, I think what this one has
But your dad was great. He was
Yeah, they were all
they were all funny as well. They weren't just like good. They were all. It reminds me of those 80s comedies where it'd be like the first time you see like 5 or 6 comic actors and actresses. And then every film you'd see after that, be like, oh, there he is from what, you know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. It was like that. They were all, everybody in it was just funny. They were just
they
funny
were really
people.
good. Yeah. And it's interesting because it got a lot of marketing. It's had a lot of advertising, it had a lot of buzz, yet Samara Weaving is still up and coming. Probably the biggest thing she's done outside of this movie was The Babysitter on Netflix, which was another fun but very glossy but very fun B-movie horror. And Adam Brody, really. Like, there's no one else in the... I mean, yes, Andy McDowell, but I mean...
Yeah, and the dad's familiar, and even the
But none of the... What I mean
husband
is...
is familiar.
What I mean is, if
No,
they
you're
were
right,
like...
big stars.
If they were like Andy McDowell in Ready or Not, you'd be like, well, I'm not going to that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not...
Yeah.
It's not a name. Also, every time she comes on screen, all I can hear is Mike from Space being like, I'm Andy McNabb, I'm Andy McNabb, I'm Andy McDowell. Shit. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
That's my favourite bit in all of Space. When he sits down with the TA and he's got the yellow glasses on, you just see his face and he's just like, I'm Andy McNabb, I'm Andy McNabb, I'm Andy McDowell. Shit. Like that, it's just so good.
But you're right. But to be fair, I think a lot of this got to do with the fact that as soon we saw this movie trailer, among a bunch of trailers, it was a movie, I can't remember what the movie was, but it had like 12, I'm like, well, when the trailer's going to be over?
Right.
And in the middle was Ready or Not. And after the movie, we both went, we have to go and see that Ready or Not. That looked really good. And like often your reactions to things,
Yeah.
or other people's, like, this is the night before it officially opened.
Yeah.
And the cinema was full.
Yeah, packed, yeah.
There was people sitting in the front row,
Yeah.
about 2 foot from the screen.
Yeah, gaggling.
Yeah, and there was, you know, they were. It was a bit slow, weirdly, to get going, even though the actual plot started very quick. I can't even remember what. I suppose like after the first death. Like
Well, the atmosphere in the cinema was not particularly great because it's a weird cinema because it's very light, it's very quiet. Like all the sound seemed to be at the front of the screen. Like they weren't using any of the side speakers, which we've had before at an AMC theatre, and it's very odd. But also, it was one of those theatres that if someone 4 rows away unwrapped a throat lozenge, you heard every
that's
little
true. It was
wrinkle.
really noisy. Yeah.
So it had like a really weird atmosphere in it. There wasn't a lot of soundproofing and so on. So I don't know that it was the movie's fault. I think it was
No,
very
that's
difficult to like initially get into. The other thing that this movie reminded me a lot of was You're Next, which I don't know if you've seen or not.
I fucking love that film.
But I absolutely loved You're Next. And this has, although it's a totally different plot, this has a very, very You're Next vibe to it. You're Next is slightly better. I'm going to still put You're Next over this one. But this one, you know, there's not a lot I can say about it. There was a lot I liked about it. It was perfectly serviceable. It was very well shot. It was very well shot. It looked great, and Weaving gave it the beam. So I've no problem with any of that. And it's a perfectly serviceable. Like everyone should go see it if they're a bit starved of sort of comedy horror. Weirdly, though, my recent rash of, and I don't just mean Satanic Panic, but my recent rash of watching a bunch of indie horrors and a bunch of indie comedies and a bunch of indie thrillers and just in general watching a lot of new films kind of went against this one. I feel like if this was 2016 and we'd seen a bunch of shash and then we saw this one, my reaction would have been a lot more like over the moon. As it was, this 100% slots in alongside a lot of the other good films I'm seeing this year, but it didn't like blow the top of my head off either.
Well, see, I really, really enjoyed it, mostly because it's exactly the kind of film that I wanted you and me to be seeing, a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yes.
Like, just go to the cinema, not like, because, I watch a lot of stuff on Netflix or whatever, right? I'm willing to try out lots of new horror films, and like I will mostly watch new stuff rather than old stuff, right? I'll always try and find something I haven't seen before. So I'm constantly watching new stuff at home. But the cinema, it was all Mortal Engines and, all that bollocks. And this was really, really funny. An amazing roller coaster ride. Like, it didn't let up for a minute. There was no sitting around buggering about. There was real tension in the setups. They didn't do anything artificial. Like, she got out, like everything felt real. Nothing felt
right.
Like, oh, well, would she really do that? Like, one of my favourite bits is like, how are they going to get around the fact that like he did bring her here? Because the plot of the movie, which we've not in any way recounted, is a man and a woman get married, and she's being brought into this family. And part of the deal, because it's an extremely rich family, who made their money in board games, and part of the deal
sports stuff.
Well, no, I think it's more that they became rich, and then, as a demonstration of their wealth, they bought sports teams. I don't think it made them wealthy.
No, he bought sports stores and things before. He said, my father bought sports stuff, and then I've... Anyway,
They've definitely gotten richer. That's true. It's not like they've been sitting on a fortune. They've continued to get richer as time has gone on.
But yes, games is the key.
Part of the ritual is... on the wedding night, whoever's becoming a new part of the family has to draw a card.
Anything else here?
I'm still picking. I'm just still picking. I'm all good. Thank you.
So on the wedding night, the person getting married has to play a game. They pick the game. And we sort of get the feeling a little bit that hide and seek is bad, although we're not sure why. And sure enough, she picks hide and seek.
Well, there's a magic box. The box picks it.
It's like a magic box, and the box picks it. It's all like, basically, it's all about a thing that they owe their fortune to kind of like a pact with the devil.
No, but it's important that she didn't voluntarily pick hide and seek, is all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah,
you don't have
I know.
to go into the whole thing.
It doesn't really matter. But yeah. Well...
It kind of does, actually.
Well, no, it doesn't, because she doesn't know what any of it is. You see what I mean? Like, the point is that when she picks the card out of the thingamajig that reads hide and seek,
right.
It means nothing to her, but to everybody else around the table, it's this huge big deal. And because we'd seen the trailer, we knew what was coming. That was the only thing that spoiled it, I think, was that for the first 20 minutes or so, it's like, well, we know what's coming, so can we just, can we get to that bit?
Right, but I have to say that the fact that the movie starts with them literally going down to get married,
Yeah.
What was nice about it was the movie did get going. Like, the added information we got from what we saw in the trailer about LaBelle and all that was important. But basically it went wedding, game.
Yeah, that's true.
And then...
Yeah, no, you're right.
We didn't see them, for example, in an apartment in New York getting ready to go to the country.
No, that's true. You're right, it did start with them getting married.
You know what I mean, though, right?
No, you're quite right. I guess it's just that there's always that thing of like, if I hadn't seen the trailer, but then again, it began with, with the games. I'm not sure that's even true. But either way, she discovers that what hide and seek means is the family are going to have to find her and kill her in some ritual sacrifice in order to ensure that they not only stay wealthy, but stay alive. If they don't kill her before the sun rises, they're all going to die.
Right.
And-
And there's some indication, and I don't know what you thought about this, but there's some indication that, because we meet the husband of the sister and the wife of the brother, both of whom have no moral compass, like both of whom are shits for different reasons.
Right.
And it's almost like, yes, the box picks hide and seek because, well, it's been 30 years or whatever since the last time, so I need another soul. But also, she's a good one. Like, the reason why I didn't take the souls of the brother's wife and the sister's husband is because they're both shits. They belong in this shitty family.
Yeah. That's
I need a fresh.
And
good
actually,
soul. Not that she's virginal or anything, because they're clearly not. But like,
no, it's true.
She's a good person.
And given how it all plays out, if the goal of the game is to keep the family together, then it kind of works.
Right.
In that, anyway, had they done it before the sun rose?
Well, also the way it plays out is, and this is a spoiler, so if you haven't seen the movie, go see it, then come back and start listening again. She doesn't kill anybody.
Oh yeah,
She's a badass throughout the whole movie, but she doesn't kill anybody.
You're right.
She strangles the butler, but
He lives.
He lives.
yeah.
She punches the little kid in the face, and that's it.
funny. You're right. I totally missed that. You're completely right.
Oh, by the way, the other thing that kind of blew my mind was that Satanic Panic, and I don't know when they were both made. Neither of them would have seen each other's trailers, but in Satanic Panic, the lead woman also punches a small child. And I was a bit like, huh. Anyway, carry on. Sometimes these things are just floating.
Well, but that's what I mean. I think what's interesting about the movie is it is clearly tapping into a sense in the world of like rich people run everything, and if we're going to get out of from underneath this, we're going to have to fucking work for it. Do you know what I mean? Like we're going to have to live through we're going to end up covered in vomit, and goat guts and people's blood and with holes in us. And maybe we'll get out from underneath the rich people if we're lucky,
Right.
Because and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like it's less like they are evil and so they deserve to be punished, right? It's more. Although I guess the moral of the story is with the pact is like when you make a pact with the devil and that is going to come back to bite you in the arse, maybe. But yeah. So anyway, but the thing I
did love the whole story about that it was on like some tramp steamer going across the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really evocative. I could have done with like a.
No, I'm all right. Thanks, mate. I'm all right. Thank you.
I could have almost done with like an old flashback of that. Like it was very evocative.
It was true, but then I did like that it stayed with her the whole movie.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So the thing I'm saying is that the moment I started really liking it, was like, well, no, this is good. I was thinking, how are they going to explain the fact that this guy who's like handsome, Mr. Handsome Be Wonderful, this great guy, right, that she's married to, got her into this because he did, right? I mean, he got her, and he can play the, I was hoping, you wouldn't pick the card and blah blah blah. But right at the end, he says, and she's like, "Well, you just tell me what was going on. If I told you, you would have left me." And there was a moment I think, yeah, she probably would have done. Yeah, right. You can't go. My family want to draw lots and try and murder you if you pick the wrong card. You're like, okay, well, I'm out. And if I hadn't proposed, you'd have left me. So his only choice was propose and hope she doesn't pick a card. Which in his lifetime, other than because he was locked in a cupboard when it happened. Last 30 years it hasn't happened. But he has, as he recounts, he's seen people try to get out of it and die. So that's all he knows. So immediately it's like, okay, so there's a reason for her here. I don't feel like this is,
Yes, but there's also an interesting parallel with the idea of the chances in the world. There are those chances who are like, oh, just as long as this goes my way kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when the consequences hit, are not in any way equipped to handle the consequences. You know what I mean? They were literally living on, luck, keeping their fingers crossed, even though they had all the information. They had all the information. It's like when someone comes up to you and it's like, playing roulette is stupid because there's a 1 in a billion chance or whatever that's going to land on whatever it is. But someone being like, no, but like tonight's my, you know what I mean? Like that, but on a scale that doesn't just affect you and your bank balance, but affects everyone around you. And I suppose I'm trying to think of ways, it's like someone with a cold going into work being like, I'm not going to get anyone else sick, or...
No, I know exactly what you mean,
I mean?
but what I liked about that moment was, what they have to do here is this is really key, this is a key moment, they have to sell that her being here is likely. It's not just like a setup for a movie where she's going to be hunted.
Right, no, I get it. The script was very tight,
just that bit of dialogue, it really hit, because it was, I believe that. And then I liked him for most of it, but it was, and I really, I do, you do love the Revenant kind of people going through hell, like, oh no, all that kind of stuff was fantastic, and it was funny, and the comedy was dark, but it was it was kind of gleeful. It had that kind of a fun, I'm trying to think of what it reminded me of, that kind of like gleeful gore kind of comedy, while at the same time being like full of like smart lines and great acting. It wasn't just like, let's just make it gory and it'll be fine. It's like, all of it was just right.
It knew how to use, and I won't forgive the trailer for giving away the two kills of the nannies.
That was a shame. Because those were too big. But then that's what...
To put one of them in the trailer would be okay. To put both of them in the trailer really spoils that second...
That's true. Although one of my favourite bits was when he's looking at his phone. And I can't even remember what it said. What was the word? It was like he was checking a text on his phone from his mate.
His mate says, "What up, dog?" or whatever.
Right, and then...
It's like, family shit.
No, it was like, what's up, dog? And then it was something like, it wasn't like balderdash, or like, it was like fash, or fit. I can't remember what it was. It was like a really weird, like peach or something. It was a weird word.
Well, his name was Fish, or Fitch.
Oh, no, it wasn't that. It was something that was like a weird word. Anyway.
At the end, he's like, don't be a bitch.
Yeah, don't be a bitch. He was great, because he turns to the other wife, the wife of the brother, near the end, he goes, like, at what point do we just cut and run? Right? And then when she walked away, and he was really aggressively,
Yes, he's done.
really aggressively, like doing the swear behind. That was very Bottom. That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Bottom. Like a lot of the gore and the hacking things off and the ultra violence and the putting the finger up behind people's backs in a ridiculous way. It has like a very Bottom, over the top, violent, funny feel to it.
In a weird way, I could have done with it being sort of even more like that. In a weird way. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's a very well made movie, a very well acted movie. The script is super tight. And it's great. I think the only shame for me personally, and no one else is going to necessarily have this experience unless they've watched exactly what I've watched in the order that I've watched, is that it didn't smack to me of anything that I hadn't seen before. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just happens to be a fact, right?
Yeah, and I agree. That's
because it was like Your Next meets Satanic Panic, and if you watch those two films back to back, you've kind of seen.
Yeah, but I've seen Your Next, and I loved Your Next, but this was a different experience. Your Next was like a really fun action film, and where there's like the central, like the great thing about that is they don't know who they're fucking with, kind of a thing.
Right.
Like the right person in the wrong place. Like it's like a John McClane kind of thing almost.
Right.
That she, the source of her trauma, ends up being the thing that saves her life. It's like a really well done tight thing happening. But this is more of a fun, gory, roller coaster ride. And I get where you're coming from. Clearly, like the Satanic Panic thing and this are pretty similar, and that's a bit of a shame because it is tough to watch. Because that does happen sometimes when you get like 2 Robin Hood movies or whatever. Like people just think the same things, and clearly the rich people as devil worshippers picking on the poor and getting their comeuppance is like you've read your audience. You know what I mean? Like,
no, totally.
Because the 1% aren't going to see this movie.
Weirdly, as I said to you before the movie, and I was referring to Satanic Panic on this one. If a movie really wanted to have some satirical teeth, they wouldn't pick Satanism, which at this point, like, is one of 2 things. It's either horribly passé, or it is, if you follow like any internet groups or whatever, people are always like, well, actually, the Satanic Bible says a bunch of really good lefty liberal things because they don't believe Satan is like the devil. They believe Satan is a cast out angel, blah, 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 whatever, that has his own opinions versus God's, right? And so you're either like, well, I'm a wishy-washy liberal who wants to call himself something, so I've decided to call himself Satanist because it's like kind of still a little bit edgy, or it's totally passé. If you wanted to have real satirical teeth, you would talk about like.
For me, like I know what you mean.
Hang on, can I finish?
Sorry, all right.
Otherwise, people don't know what I'm saying. You heard it because I said it before the movie.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough.
If you want to have some real satirical teeth, you would make a family, not in this movie actually, but in Satanic Panic, you would have made the family like hyper Christian rather than hyper devil. This movie's different because in this movie, it's not about. I mean, it's a little bit about, but it's about like their great grandfather made a pact, right?
Yeah, it's like a super because I guess the point is that throughout the whole movie there is a feeling of are they under threat? Because they certainly feel like if we don't kill her, we're all dead.
We're all dead.
And nobody has more fun with the word fuck than the dad.
Than the dad.
The dad has a whole ton of fun with the word fuck.
But if you look at that with as a commentary on old money in America, most old money in America traces back somewhere if you've been in America long enough with the slave trade. It just does. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
so there's the idea that if you are, 5th generation still holding on to millions, possibly billions of dollars now, it doesn't matter if now you're in real estate or now you're in clothing or now you're in banking or now you're in whatever. Somewhere along the line, someone owns someone
made
else.
A pact with the devil. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so there's that nice thing, but this also because it's like a big old stately home. It's not like a modern mansion or a modern high rise or it's not like Trump Tower or something. It's like a proper old stately home. Like I said, the image of
Anything else?
no, we're all good, man. We're good. Thank you. The image of Mr. LaBelle and his great-grandfather sitting at some table, at some old tramp steamer going across the Atlantic or whatever, playing cards and making deals, coupled with this old stately home, does have like a nice kind of ring of, weirdly enough, because I also mentioned this before the movie, Tales of the Unexpected. Like it's got like that Roald Dahl, turn of the century, empire, British
somebody
Empire
made
kind of, you know what I mean? Well, he was a traveller, blah, 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 and he made a deal with so-and-so. Like, it's just got a nice kind of, like, old school
you're right.
vibe to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, we grew up with, like, Tales of the Unexpected, and what's the other one? Well, I mean, the American versions of these are things like Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, and Tales from the Crypt, that kind of thing. Like a tale... Stories with like a twist in their tail. For anyone who's seen 4 Rooms, Quentin Tarantino based his segment off an old Tales of the Unexpected story by Roald Dahl. But this is almost like what happens after that story. So there's a twist in that tale. So a guy on a boat back in 1900s or 1800s gives someone a box. It's like, hey, you've got till we hit the shores of the Americas to figure out the box, right? And then you find out that, the box basically means you've sold your soul to the devil. And then this is what's the consequence of that twist in the tale?
That's what this. You know what? That's what this feels like. It feels like one of those Tales from the Crypt movies from the 90s,
Yeah.
right? And you expect, like, I don't know, William Sadler or Madeline Kahn to be in it, or you know what I mean? Like that kind of...
Well, it weirdly has a connection to Clue as well.
Yeah, it
in
feels
a weird
quite...
way.
No, that's the vibe I got. Like, funny people running around in a house. Not all of them, like, terribly likeable, but all of them really fun.
It feels like a violent Clue.
Yeah, like a... Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. It was... It had a nice throwback feel to the 90s, or maybe like the 80s. That kind of like, we don't need any big stars, we just need funny people.
Right.
And we just need to, like, turn up the violence and the pace, to 11.
No, if anything,
and,
what's really impressive...
get in and get out.
Well, if anything, what's really impressive, and I don't know whether someone looked at Samara Weaving when she looks a lot like Margot Robbie, but doesn't cost as much. Let's make her a star, and therefore that's why this got all the marketing. I don't know. Maybe it was going to be one of those like B-tier distribution deals, and someone looked at it and went, "This is too good. We need to put it out."
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing about
I
this.
don't know,
but just like you say, for no stars, this to get a cinematic release.
But not only that, but a big cinematic release.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the movie, like Tone Deaf, for example, with Robert Patrick, or Satanic Panic, which has Rebecca Romijn in it, and Jerry O'Connell, and some other like B-tier stars, and then The Freaks, which not The Freaks, just Freaks, which has Emile Hirsch and Bruce Dern in it. All these, it's not like these. Even look at The Trust, Nick Cage and Elijah Wood, Come to Daddy, Elijah Wood. Hitler, Bigfoot, Sam Elliott. They all have these level of stars in it. So, and all of them, bar none, could be cinematic movies, and I would love for them to be in the cinema. But all of the ones I just mentioned got a week, possibly, in an IFC or a Anthology Film Archives or a Alamo Draft House, and then went straight to
Right, but what
on-demand.
I'm wondering is...
Whereas this could have gone straight to on demand, but I want to know kind of why this.
Well, fine, but see, this is what I'm thinking. I reckon that what might be happening, is what I hoped would happen, is that once things start consolidating, once Fox got sold off to Disney, and Disney fucking owns everything, and people are just like programming up against Disney, I felt like, and also everybody's trying to launch a franchise, and they're all failing, and they all cost hundreds of billions of dollars. Like, no one's making another Mortal Engines. I don't care what anybody says, no one's making another Battle Angel Elite, and you can fuck off. Right? It's not going to happen. So all these, and it's like, we're going to keep throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at these franchises.
They bet the bank on Avatar 2 through 10 or whatever.
No, but Avatar was already there, and you sort of feel like with Cameron, it's like, his movies make their money back, right? Even when they're shit, like Avatar, they still make their money back. And it was like the biggest, like Terminator 2, and then Titanic, and then Avatar, like the biggest grossing movies. And it took them ages to make them, but when they came out, so it's like, that's fine, that's a safe bet. But continuing to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at these franchises that go nowhere, which is all they've done for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
There's no harm in going, well, look, here's a movie. It's funny, it rolls along, it definitely taps into that whole, like 1% rich people, that have got it all in for us kind of thing. Let's give it a wider release, see what happens. And, like, you saw what happened. Like, there's clearly an appetite for, like, so...
But what was interesting was we went to see 47 Meters Down Uncaged last week, and
that was a lot busier than I was expecting.
That too, the cinema was packed, but it had a really weak opening weekend, which is odd because it should have been, especially last weekend. It was fuck all out last weekend, apart from a family movie.
Yeah. Well, then I don't know. I mean, maybe not. But there's no harm in betting on that. There's no harm in going back to the model of let's spend a few million.
Right. Oh, this probably cost.
Don't spend money on actors.
I'm going to say, if you include the marketing, this cost 50 mil. If you include the marketing,
and they could probably make a lot of that back on either the cinema release, and then there's the other thing too that I'm convinced about is that when you give something a cinema release, it automatically is going to cost whoever's going to buy it more money, right? Whether it's Disney Plus or HBO, whatever the fuck it's going to be called, or any network TV, right? Any network TV channel, TNT or FX Movies or whatever, that want to buy a movie for their channel, if it's had a cinema release, it automatically costs more. So you get more money on the back end, which is where most stuff is these days.
Right. No, I totally get that. And no, it's just interesting. Listen, it's very heartwarming. That not heartwarming is the wrong word, but like hopeful that a movie like this gets heartening is the word I was looking for. That this got a cinematic release because, like I say, all the ones I've listed, all the ones I'm reviewing on the website, there isn't one of them that wouldn't play to an audience as big as this right now. And what I'm really excited about is outside of the occasional preponderance of a handheld camera, which is just plaguing every fucking movie at this point. Most of the films that I'm seeing, like I say, there's a whole bunch of RLJE is a distributor. Is it A to Z or AC or something like that? That's a distributor. There's a whole bunch of these Saban films that I'm getting screeners for, and all of them look great. None of them have that like video-y, shitty, this was shot in someone's
again, I
backyard.
wonder if it's because companies...
They're all good scripts. They're all good ideas. All of them. And we've been missing that, and it's really refreshing.
That's true, and I do think that the thing about taking Netflix as an example, what Netflix want more than anything is they just want content, right? And the content for them has
they want
to look
content
good.
that isn't Disney anymore.
Right, but they need it to look good. Like,
Right.
It doesn't matter how great the film is. If it's like shunky camera, it might need to look like a proper movie.
Right.
And like, hey, these days, there's no video store. It needs to live, on demand.
Yeah.
So it's got to be good. It can't be about like a start and a cover because it's only word of mouth now. There's no like, hey, there's a sexy cover and it's the only thing that we pay Blockbuster an extra few grand to like stick it on there, whatever.
Right.
It's like, hey, this is it. So it's got to be good.
Sorry, sir. Could I grab some more water? More water, and we'll take the check whenever you're ready. But that's great. Thank you.
I'm going to say he's ready now. He was ready half an hour ago.
He was ready 20 minutes ago. I'm being like,
ready
why are you sitting here?
2 minutes after we sat down.
Because I just paid you $15 for a fucking omelet. That's why I'm ready. But no, you're right. Like the content needs to look good and it needs to be strong. But what's interesting is this: when Netflix started, or when streaming services in general decided that generating their own content, paying for their own content, was the way to go. And when smaller companies like Blumhouse and stuff started up.
You got 2 omelets and tea, right?
Sorry?
2 omelets and tea.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
Give me more water.
More water, please. Thank you. When Netflix started making stuff, I hoped that we would get a rash of these kind of films.
Yeah.
What has weirdly ended up happening is on the hope that these films will have a second life. Thank you, sir. That's great. Instead of Netflix going out to good writers and good filmmakers
Thank you.
and saying, make us a bunch of $10 million movies or make us a bunch of $6 million movies or whatever, these little distribution houses, or Blumhouse, for example, who's just kind of, yes, for every The Hunt or whatever, there'll be 15 fucking Halloween movies, and he's looking to reboot Texas Chainsaw Massacre and other shit as well. Like, he's just looking to reboot a bunch of shit now. Not Texas, he's looking to reboot, is it Candyman? He's trying to reboot something. Anyway, these little distribution houses are going out to interesting filmmakers and interesting movies and saying, if you make us a movie, if it looks good, if it's got 2 B stars in it, then we can flog it to these platforms.
Yeah, especially as you rightly point out, if it is good, because the other thing is, like, both of us, I know I feel with like Netflix. One of the reasons that I stay with Netflix, and I'm very happy with Netflix, is not like their original movies. I hardly ever watch the original movies because they're mostly either, they're just like, they're not very good. But I find weird films on there, weird horror films, weird sci-fi, weird action stuff that I wouldn't have found otherwise. They just happen to be on there, and the hit rate is pretty good because they don't have to buy crap. Thank you.
No, it's just funny as Netflix tries to go the other way. In other words, make movies
Yeah.
that might one day play in the cinema, like The Irishman or whatever. What's actually happening is there's all these like neat
Yeah.
B-tier movies that will
Yeah.
end up on a Hulu or a Netflix or a Shudder or whatever
Yeah.
that we're super enjoying right now.
Oh, that's your one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
That's yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree. No, that's a very good point. That
I just didn't see it going that way around.
no, you're right. I suppose because, in a sense, Netflix, as a lot like studios, feel like they can't take the risk, so they're going to pump in. They feel it's better to pump 100 million in, get a big star like Will Smith in, and that's how you get your money back.
Yeah.
Whereas studios like, fuck it, let's just put some people in, let's get a good script, 10 mil, and some some talented actors, and make something good, because ultimately that's what. Because the other thing is, everything on a streaming service, right, is about shelf life. It's not like all we need to do is get them to pick the video off the shelf once, and in the 2 months it's going to be in the store. Enough people do that, we make our money, right? This is like, hey, this is going to be on there for 5 years. So if it's good, and you say, hey, I saw this great film on Netflix, then someone else watches it, and then it lives on as like perpetually fresh content that people are talking about because it's always being discovered.
Right.
So
Yeah, and
you're right, it makes total sense for smaller companies to make just good movies
Yeah.
to make their money. So
the-
it's very, very hopeful.
So I will say the same thing about Ready or Not that I would say about any of the other films that I've been mentioning. And that is, depending on what they choose to do next, I would give the filmmakers of this movie, so 2 filmmakers, right?
Yeah, look, the partnership, yeah.
I would give the filmmakers of this movie at least 3 to 5 more movies before, like, if they made another 4 movies and they're all shit, you wouldn't keep watching them. But, like, I would want to see what they do next.
Yeah.
And the same with Samara Weaving. Like, I want to see
She was really
what
good.
she does. But I enjoyed The Babysitter for what it is. Again, like, totally obvious. It doesn't do anything that you're not surprised about. And again, it's like, you know, your babysitter turns out to be like a devil worshipping hag beast or whatever. Like, it is what it is. But very well done, very glossy, good practical effects, good lead performance. Same with this one. Same with a lot of the others I'm watching. And I would say that, and I would like to call out as well. Like, if you're someone who goes along and sees something like a Ready or Not once in a blue moon and goes, fuck, I wish there was 10 more of these movies, please go to the After Movie Diner, and I'm not saying this because of me, but go to the After Movie Diner, aftermoviediner.com, and see the new releases. Just click on new releases and see what I'm writing about and see what my contributors are writing about. If you see this movie and you're just 20, let's say, and you haven't seen a lot of horror movies before, you haven't seen a lot of movies like this before, and you're like, fuck, I wish there was 10 or 15 more movies that were like this that I could go see right now on demand or on streaming or whatever. I'm telling you, 2019 has been a really good year for them. It started in 2018, the second half of 2018, I caught up with 2018 at the beginning of 2019. So for me, I feel like they're 2019 movies. But I watched a whole bunch from the second half of 2018 that my colleagues at other websites had been telling me to watch. And the trend already started then. There's a bunch from the second half of 2018 and a bunch from 2019 that I will, promote and promote and promote until you're bored of hearing me mention it. And as I said in my post on Facebook, not because each one of them is going to be a winner for everybody. I know you watched like 5 minutes of Tone Deaf and it wasn't for you. And not because they're the greatest movies that have ever been. But if we're 100% honest, if we take away nostalgia, if we take away the fact that we grew up with them, if we take away whatever, Society, Reanimator, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, whatever it is, just pick those like 80s movies that keep having a cult resurgence, they're not the greatest movies that were ever made. super fucking enjoyable, and they had a performance in it that stuck with you, and they had special effects that you were like, oh my god, I can't fucking believe I just watched that. They're not the greatest movies ever fucking made. I don't even know what the greatest movie ever, I mean, that's a subjective thing, but you look at them and they're like rough around the edges, and the characters don't necessarily have a through line, and blah 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 blah, but there's something about them that pops. And what I'm saying is the current rash of movies that I'm seeing that I'm excited about, they fall squarely into that category. There's a great performance in there somewhere by someone, or multiple great performances. They have really good practical special effects. They have a decent idea at their core that someone is writing to a point of like being excited by that idea, even if they're not 100% successful with the entire execution of that idea. There's a really strong idea there. There are some good directors coming out. The films look good. They look strong. They have a good storytelling pace to them, and they're readily available. They're getting distribution. They're getting video on demand. They're getting whatever. And it's taken 10 years, and maybe I'm being way too hopeful, but it feels like that thing we were saying when Netflix first started out, and when other movie streaming sites first started out, we were like, it's just not like a video store. It just doesn't have the, back cat content or the range or the picking out the random weird movie based on the cover or whatever. It doesn't have that vibe to it. Maybe I'm talking too soon. Maybe it all goes away in a year, but it feels like we're slowly getting to that point where I can go to a Shudder, I can go to a Netflix, I can go to a Hulu, I can go to an Amazon Prime, and there are movies there where I'm like, I kind of know that guy, I kind of know that guy. It's about devil worshippers in the suburbs. Great, let's put it in. You know what I mean? And one of them is going to be 50 years from now, The Burbs or The Reanimator or The Evil Dead or whatever.
I definitely feel like if you,
generation.
me, and John had seen Ready or Not when we were, 14 from Star Video, we'd have fucking loved it.
Hands
Adam Brody
down.
would be like, I will see anything that Adam Brody is in. You know what I mean? We'd be like, I
Yes.
love Adam Brody.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And I'm also excited, and I mean this genuinely, and I'm sorry to keep going on, but I'm excited that there's an 18-year-old somewhere or a 15-year-old somewhere sitting with his two mates watching this movie being like, that's my movie. I've been watching all these other movies. I've been watching sci-fi movies and action movies and comic book movies and whatever, and they're fine, just like Indiana Jones or whatever is great. We love Indiana Jones, but when we saw The Burbs, that was our fucking movie. Wasn't everybody's movie.
No, I know
when
what you
we
mean,
saw The Thing, that
Yeah.
was our fucking movie.
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah, yeah.
everybody's movie. Indiana Jones is everybody's movie. Iron Man is everybody's movie. And they need to exist. But there's a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old or even a 25-year-old who goes to see Ready or Not and he's like, oh, that's it. And that was us. And that's what I'm excited about with this next generation. And I haven't felt that way in like fucking 10 years, 15 years.
Well, that's the good thing.
see a rash of movies
Yeah,
like
that's the good thing, I guess, is that ultimately, I think, as well, one of the things about movies on streaming services versus TV shows is some TV shows repeat viewing, right? No question. But actually, people watch movies. Well, there's two things. One is people watch movies a lot. It's not like TV shows have replaced them. Just by putting them on streaming services, we can watch them all at once. Doesn't mean people still don't like, a 2-hour movie. Plus, on all TV, right, that's not, at least in terms of American TV, right, either on demand or live, movies outperform TV shows everywhere. Like, movies just do the bigger ratings, right? They just do. So there's value there. So in other words, if you can get a movie that people like, you can sell it to not just Netflix, but you can sell it to Netflix for a bit, then you can sell it to Fox Movies for a bit, then you can sell it to some New Jersey affiliate for a bit, you can sell it international. Like, there's endless amounts of cash to be made out of one and done 5-minute, 2-hour movies, right? And you can make a fat pile of cash, and it was only whatever, like 10, 20 million.
And what's really nice for people like us, especially me running the website, is that because it's not Iron Man, because it's not some Disney mega $1 billion budget, whatever, I get to see them. I get to review them. We get to interview people involved.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I feel like, and I felt like this when I spoke to the guys behind the Trust as well. Another movie that should have done so much better than it did. But I feel like I'm speaking to the, you know, maybe not the John Carpenters of the next generation, but certainly like the Joe Dantes or the Wes Cravens or the whatever of the next generation. Like I feel like I'm talking to those guys who 2 or 3 films from now will make that fucking movie that for 20 years, 50 years people are talking about. And I know, like, again, I know you weren't hot on Tone Deaf, and I know that not everyone was hot on a film like Mandy, but there are movies like that, Mandy, Tone Deaf, or whatever. Yes, okay, the post-ironic crowd can kind of be like, isn't it funny when Nick Cage screams in the bathroom wearing a tiger sweater or whatever? Or isn't Cheddar Goblin hilariously ironic? But something like that, and something like Robert Patrick's performance in Tone Deaf, has the potential to do repeat business.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because they're being made by directors who, Richard Bates Jr., all of his films have he made Tone Deaf, all of them have a very similar and strong sensibility and a strong comedic and horror, dark comedic sense. And Panos Cosmatos, who's the son of George Cosmatos, who made fucking Cobra, Rambo 2, and Tombstone, and Leviathan with Peter Weller. Cosmatos has the potential after Mandy to like go on and maybe be the Wes Craven of his genre and do maybe smaller, grittier, artier flicks, and then maybe he does his Nightmare on Elm Street and makes a buttload of cash and then goes off and does his Serpent and the Rainbow or whatever it is. But there's these directors out there that they're not necessarily for us anymore, man. I mean, we love them, we're finding them.
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
But they're for the 20-year-olds. They're for that generation.
That's I think what I have to remind myself when I see a lot of these movies in the cinema, is that when they do go over my head or when I don't feel connected to them, it's like, well, they're not meant to connect with me. I can enjoy them,
right?
But nobody's trying to put a fire in my belly. Nobody's trying to, that line about the Velvet Underground album. I need 80 people bought the first album, but every single one of them started a band. That kind of a thing. That's the kind of fire. Anybody making a film, that's what they want to do. They want to entertain people, but really, you want people to go out there and
But you look at the
fire.
filmmakers of our generation. You look at the Carpenter, the Raimi, the Craven, the Joe Dante. They spawned a million filmmakers. There was a period there at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, where every fucking indie movie came out was a fucking Raimi clone or a Carpenter wannabe or whatever. And it was because the reason why I felt that way towards them was that they didn't feel authentic, particularly. The Eli Roths of the world don't feel authentic. They feel like they're aping something. Ready or Not, Tone Deaf, Satanic Panic, Gwen, Freaks. None of them are, the most original idea I've ever heard of. But
they're giving it the beans.
They're finally filmmakers that, yes, grew up watching Carpenter, yes, grew up watching Raimi, and yes, grew up whatever, but actually want to be them. They want to be authentically that and tell the stories they want to tell. That's what I'm hearing and seeing right now, kind of having a peek behind the curtain as I do running the After Movie Diner. I'm able to peek slightly behind the curtain. I feel like these guys want to make movies with their voice. And yes, of course, their voice is influenced by the shit we all grew up watching.
Yeah. But it's tough
But they're not
tough to divorce from
They're not
that,
aping it, though.
No, I know what you mean. And and you're right, it can be, it's not helpful to spot influences because it's like, yeah, you could watch a Scorsese film and go, oh, well, that's from that, and this is from the other thing. But it's not because it's like Tarantino consciously saying, I'm going to take this bit from that movie and that bit from the other movie, and that'll be my movie. I'm Martin Scorsese, I love films, so yeah, like themes reflections, ideas, characters
Right.
are gonna
But
like, crop
Scorsese
up.
is
But I'm using these things to try and tell a story
Right.
that I believe in.
But Scorsese is a much more authentic filmmaker than Quentin Tarantino.
That's exactly what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's a question of what are just like what you just said. It's about what are they trying to do?
Right.
Are they trying to tell their own story, or are they just aping something because they think that thing is cool?
Right.
And I'd like to do something cool like that thing that I saw,
Right.
as opposed to I'm trying to make my story, and you can't get away from my influences because I didn't live in a box for 20 years. I watched films and I saw things, and because you watched those same films that I did, you recognise them. But the 15-year-old doesn't know
Right.
fucking clue, right? You know what I mean?
But the interesting
so for them,
thing
it's
was-
like I've never seen anything like this.
When I talked to Richard Bates about Tone Deaf, which is the interview that's currently up on the website, he said, and I asked about his influences, he said, actually what I do is, yes, I watch a bunch of movies, but like when I know I'm going into pre-production on a film, I actually stop watching films. He's like, I read a ton of books and I listen to a bunch of music. He's like, music is, informs my movies almost 95% more than anything else. And it's interesting because like when Werner Herzog is interviewed at like Q&As and stuff and asked like what movies do you watch? He goes, I read books or whatever. Like when he has a film school, he gives them a reading list, not a movie list. He's like, don't go and watch other movies. Go read books. Go learn what life's actually about. Then go make a movie. And I'm not saying Bates Jr. is like up there with Herzog, but I'm just saying he acknowledges his influences, but at the same
it's
time,
a tough
he's
one.
like,
In a visual medium, I think it's probably tougher not to. Like when you're writing, I think it's difficult to ape stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's so obvious when you're aping something, and it's not cool to ape somebody else's voice.
Right.
But to ape somebody else's look, it's like, yeah, that's cool. Like, that's like it's a bit Blade Runner this or a bit, whatever, right? So that's like, so it's easier to do and feel like you're still being artistic. That you're not ripping somebody off. Whereas actually, like you say, it's actually about trying to create something original. But anyway, we should
but let's wrap it up. Go see Ready or Not.
definitely.
Go see Ready.
I can understand why the whole Satanic Panic thing kind of took the gloss off it for you.
Oh no, I loved it and I'm endorsing it. I'm just saying.
No. I get it. I understand why.
You watch as many
it didn't-
movies as I do, you end up.
Yeah, but
tripping over the same
specifically, like clearly there was a lot of parallels between Satanic Panic and this one, and you did just watch that one. So of course it's tough to be hit in the same way I am, which was that it was just this great roller coaster ride that I've been wanting to see in the cinema for ages.
And also, from now on, when we go to the movies, unless it's a trailer we really haven't seen or we don't care about, I'm talking to you, I'm not watching trailers because they're spoiling every movie.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't have known about Radio North if I hadn't seen that
I
trailer.
would have done, and I would have pushed us to go see it.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway, let's go.
Good plan.
All right, so to end this week's show, I have written a song. I used to, a long time ago, kind of do comedy songs about the films in question to kind of end the show, and I used to do like a song a show. Well, I sort of thought, what if I kind of used either the title of the film or something in the film to maybe write a non-comedy song, like more of a serious song, like more of some of my miscellaneous plumbing fixture stuff that can be found on Spotify and Bandcamp. That's miscellaneous plumbing fixtures on Spotify or miskplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com on Bandcamp. So that's what I've done this week. Ready or Not kind of lends itself to a song. It's got a nice refrain, Ready or Not. I know there are songs in which that lyric appears, but I've written my own. So that's what you're going to listen to. And if you want more music, head on over to miskplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. A blurred mess of orange and pinks, but you can pick out the trails. like I can pick you out in a crowd. 'Cause I'm a stickler for the details. And she whispered, is that all that you've got? And she says, ready or not. Your glances are comic book cover, painted wild and explicit. If ever there was a moment to escape together, Alan, baby, this is it. And she whispered, ah, that means a lot. And she says, darling, ready or not. Let me make a stand, let the armies advance. Let the generals stumble over each other. Let's remember France. There is one in a million. This is my only chance. Let's count the clouds from the road. Let's give this beach another dance. Is that all that you've got? And she says, darling, ready or not. Your words of resolve bring